Hello. Today, as part of my series of poetry readings, I want to read you a poem from this anthology. Lifesaving Poems, edited by Anthony Wilson. And this book is so worth getting for so many different reasons. Number one, he's put together a whole group of readings, one poem, one poet, all the way through. So there's a whole range of poets you're going to meet. Ones you know, ones you will be new to you and worth finding out about. Also, it functions as a biography in a way, or a memoir of going through an illness period, because Anthony Wilson went through a period where he was diagnosed with what could have been a terminal illness, came through, and the comments he writes about the poems he responds to are including what he was feeling at the time. The poem I'm going to read you today is by Catherine Smith from her book Lip. I'm going to read you the poem, and then I'm going to read you what Anthony Wilson comments on it, because his commentary is so brilliant. And from that, if you like it, I do recommend buying his whole book, and then you can enjoy his selection of poems and how he writes about them afterwards, because he's a poet himself and he also teaches poetry, so he does it so well. So here we go. The poem is called How It All Started. Do you know this dream? An exam room full of neat, serious girls, your lucky gonk by your fountain pen, the plop of tennis balls through an open window. You're here for O-level history on the causes of the First World War, but you've no idea. Too busy bunking off to watch Crown Court. And the teacher says, you may turn over and begin. And there's a question on the Algeciras crisis. And all you can think is, Algeciras sounds like a virus or a cloud formation. Your eyes blur, scanning for something you understand. You wonder who Bismarck was, why his web of alliances was so significant. Your throat swells like a new loaf. You watch the girls who know the answers to those things. And you think of the stutter of gunfire, a soldier's booted foot lying in a puddle, how the leather split, how the rest of him wasn't there, just a stump of bone. And if you'd learned how it all started, you might have known how to prevent this. You should have known how to prevent this. So that's the poem. Now here's what Anthony says about it. And he's basically going to be talking about the fact that being a poet and being involved in poetry isn't this big glamorous wonderful thing, which might be news to some folks who want to write in the poetic world, but it's important news to know before you go in. Just a little note for people who aren't from the UK, that the poet mentions watching Crown Court, and that was a TV series about cases coming up in court, which was a drama. Okay, and it was a daytime drama. So if you wanted to see it live, then you were missing school. Here's what Anthony Wilson has to say about the poem. Sometimes life on planet poetry is not all it's cracked up to be. The endless buying of books none of your relations or work colleagues have ever heard of. The attending of readings with 11 other people down a lane in a thunderstorm. The feeling of being pursued by a cloud which flashes a 10-foot neon sign above your head saying, I have wasted my life. Or maybe you don't do the first two. Maybe that's just me. Sometimes this is all worthwhile. You open, as my children would say, literally open a magazine, and there it is, the poem you have been looking for all your life. The one you may even be secretly trying to write badly. A poem so right, so here and now in the present moment of your breathing and longing. It is as if you hear it in your very own voice, the one you pretend to know and love. opening the Rialto Poetry magazine, literally, at my kitchen table and finding How It All Started by Catherine Smith was such a moment for me. The recognition, the yes, that's it exactly. Please keep writing like this, of that one syllable time bomb of gonk. The way this rhymes and chimes, but not quite, brilliantly, with plop underneath it, but not quite directly underneath it, kind of to the side slant. The repetition of your, you and your 4 times in 4 lines, taking you by the hand and immersing you in its dream world. Those lines, but it does not say lines, of neat, serious girls. That fountain pen. You do not need to be a stationary obsessive to know how devastatingly right that detail is, but it helps. And we haven't even got to the content yet. Bismarck, the Algeciras crisis, that booted foot lying in a puddle. The heart-stopping brilliance. I actually, literally I mean, think mine did, of your throat swells like a new loaf. All of this, life. I pounded, hit my hand till it hurt the kitchen table in excitement. Never mind that my own bad dream exam poem was now redundant. Forever. Never mind all that. Here it was, in my house, a living, kicking, screaming, working perfect, controlled, raw, thing but artifact poem, expanding my life and renewing my faith in poems and art and learning, ironically. Every single one of the poems in Catherine's astonishing book, Lip, is as good.